this is Lady Boule, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your thumbs up, your comments, and thank you for sharing the videos. Traditionally, June has been known as the month for weddings, and I didn't want the moment or the month to pass without saying something about a very important institution, and that is the institution of marriage. And I want to speak on the state of marriage in Black America. When our ancestors came out of slavery, two things were very important to them: finding family members that may have been sold away, children, husbands, wives, kinfolk, and getting education. They wanted to stabilize their families and get educated and start building communities, sustainable communities, and that is exactly what they did. Now, according to blackdemographics.com, and that is where I got some of my information, and it is verified by the U.S. Census, from 1890 up until 1970, Black women were more likely to be married than white women. And from 1890 up until 1960, Black men were more likely to be married than white men. Black people used to value marriage. Now what happened? Something happened. Something happened by design. And now all of a sudden, we can't get married. We don't believe in marriage. Marriage is a trap. Marriage is a this and a marriage is a that. In the meantime, our families are weakened, our wealth is declining, and our children are in chaos. It has been established by anthropologists and archaeologists that Black people were the first people on planet Earth. Now, knowing that, we know that the first institution that was established was the family. It was the family. So the family is the foundation of any civilization. So goes the family, so goes the civilization. So we need to recalibrate, reset, and rethink what we're doing. Black Americans are not the only demographics in the United States that's suffering from this decline in interest in marriage, and there are a number of environmental and social factors for this decline. According to blackdemographics.com, over the last few decades, marriage has been a declining institution among all Americans. We can almost rest assured that any decline in American society is going to hit African Americans the hardest. According to Black Demographics in 2019, only 30% of African Americans were married compared to 48% of all Americans. Half or 50% of African Americans have never been married compared to 34% of all Americans. So any negative, any downturn, we are going to suffer the brunt of it. Now, some would blame this decline in interest in marriage on the part of Black men, but here are the statistics. In 2017, 479,617 more Black men were married than Black women. Some also blame their Black men's interest in other races of women on this decline in marriage to Black women. But the statistics say that in 2017, 85% of the Black men that were married to Black women. 9% were married to white women, 3% to Hispanics, and 3% to someone else. So this is what the statistics say for Black men. Of the Black women married in 2017, we know that not as many of them were married as Black men, but of the ones that were married, 93% of them were married to Black men, 4% to white men, 2% to Hispanics, and 1% to other races. We realize that Black men marry outside their race at twice the rate as Black women. We also know that these marriages have a very high failure rate. It is important to note that regardless to their economic status, when African American men and women do marry, overwhelmingly they marry other African Americans. Now here's the disturbing part. In 2017, only 30% of black people were married. 33% of black men, 27% of black women. 52% of black men had never been married, and 48% of black women had never been married, compared to 48% of all Americans being married and only 34% of them having never been married. Now, when I said that, whenever there's a problem or a decline, we get the brunt of it. That is really true. And there are reasons for that. And I'm going to just discuss briefly what I think some of the reasons as to why black people, male and female, are not marrying at the rate that other Americans are marrying. I'm not trying to be dramatic, but we always have to consider our history, how we got here, and why. By coming here in slave ships, that automatically put us in the bottom class. And we have been treated that way, have not been able to benefit from some of the things that other groups of people were able to benefit from. What our history did was set us back, and it would have set any group of people back, no matter who they were. So the history is always in the background, but there are other reasons why African Americans are not succeeding in the marriage market. Now, the reasons that I give for this decline in marriage with black Americans is education, economics, mass incarceration, social media, and superficiality. Education, in that a lot of African Americans are not receiving a quality education, and that's male and female. A bigger problem is that too many of them, us, are not taking advantage of the education that's offered. Number two is economics, just money. It takes money to live successfully in America. And if you don't have the proper education, your job opportunities are going to be limited. And that's going to not make you a very attractive marriage partner for anybody. The next thing is mass incarceration, and this is major. This is a huge problem with African Americans. Too many African American men are incarcerated or going to jail for little or nothing. We're not even talking about hard criminals. We're talking about things they're going to jail for that everybody else is either doing legally or getting slapped on the wrist. And they're going to jail for it. And we're not able to convey to young African Americans that this is a trap for you and you need to avoid it instead of walking into it. So mass incarceration is a problem with African Americans. Social media, the rise of social media, where people thinking that, that other people are giving advice about what somebody else should be doing, and you're taking advice from people you don't even know. People are, what are they saying? I forget the word that they use, where you are pretending to be somebody that you're not, and then you're influencing people who are impressionable, young people. So social media, I believe, has had an impact on marriage with African Americans, and then superficiality. And this is just, keeping up with the Joneses, pretending to be somebody you're not, trying to have something that you really don't want, but you see somebody else with it. Now, I'm adding my own spin to it now. But the superficiality of getting away from what the core of marriage should be and what a relationship should be based on. It should be based on mutual interests as opposed to what somebody looks like, what their skin tone is, what their texture of their hair is. These are superficial things that won't bring happiness. They can bring momentary pleasure, but these are not lasting qualities that is going to build healthy relationships. So I think in the African American community, these are some things that we really need to work on. We really need to work on getting our children educated, properly educated, so that they can go to the next level in their lives, working on incompetent jobs. America is a vast economy. There are all sorts of things that people can do. Everybody can find their right vocation, that they can flourish and thrive and make a livable wage. And the economics, the job, or create your own job. It doesn't mean anybody has to go working for somebody else. And the mass incarceration is really something that we have to work on as a race. I think legislation is important, but the churches, the home, and the community, we really need to get a handle on this mass incarceration. Everybody is not going to jail, but more people are going to jail and spending too much time in jail than they should spend. And social media, people have to grow out of that. That's just something you have to grow out of, because listening to somebody you don't know is never wise. And also superficiality, that's something else that we have to grow out of. But what we need to understand, I believe, is that we are stronger together. We're going to do better together, build better together. The first step toward building wealth for most people is to own a home, and then start saving and working from that. And this is where we need to really talk about this more in our community, and the black media, as they say, really need to emphasize this too, as opposed to all the time bickering over silliness. But these are things that are hindering African Americans from marriage, and marriage really is the best way to build wealth, to raise children, and to a large extent to have a life that's comfortable and a life that's compatible with nature. Thank you for listening. Subscribe, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, share the video, and as always, have a great day.